Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
WESN.
Hello and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. My name is Keaton Shaw. A beautiful day here in Trinidad and Tobago as the sun is rising. Many have already started their day and with their journeys on their way to work. Well, we wish them a safe journey to work and a great day ahead. And for you all that are joining me via WESN's social media pages, via television or via our website, well, good morning to you and thank you for being here. Now, as we start this morning's discussions, just to bring you an update from the Water and Sewerage Authority, they have issued water schedules. Now, I'll be very honest with you, when the Water and Sewerage Authority indicated that they were going to release water schedules, I was confused because, as far as I'm aware, the majority of the nation have been on a reduced supply over the last year. Nothing much has really changed. But I suppose it's just updated information, and we should be grateful that we're getting some information at least. But several areas will actually receive a pipe-borne water supply every 3 to 4 days, every 6 days. There's some areas which are receiving a water 1 day out of 10. So that means every 10 days for only one, you will be receiving a pipe-borne water supply. In populous communities such as Princetown and Freeport, where nearly 28,000 and 12,000 individuals live respectively, they will receive a pipe-borne water supply once a week. In areas like Clark Road, Rock Road, Mount Diablo, to name a few, Maruga, they will receive water once every 10 days. These restrictions are coming into effect 1 week following the Water and Sewerage Authority's press conference, in which Chairman Ravindra Nanga, he says, this is not the WASA of old. This is us being more proactive. I'm not entirely in agreement with that. I don't know how you can be proactive in the middle of the dry season. Karen Nunes is sharing on a different platform. She gave her thoughts, saying that in all fairness to them, they're saying let's do this sooner rather than wait for the levels to drop. I mean, it really depends on how you interpret what Mr. Nanga said. And quite clearly, all throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we've been having water issues for quite some time now, and I don't understand how this really works or what the thinking is, because water schedule is now in effect. Water restrictions have been in effect. I mean, even up to last night, I had no water where I'm living. So, you know, I guess be grateful for the few days that you are getting water. northwestern Trinidad. There are areas across northwestern Trinidad which are not going to be subject to any restrictions at all. So there are parts of Northwest, no restrictions at all. I wonder how this will affect many of the citizens living in Northwest Trinidad with swimming pools, for example. You know what I'm alluding to. How is this going to affect their ability to have their swimming pool full of water all the time and enjoy such facilities? I can't understand in 2023. In 2023, some areas across Trinidad and Tobago are receiving water once every 10 days. Anyway, moving on, just to bring you another update. The Commissioner of Police, she's continuing on her public relations. Her stance against crime is strong, and she has responded to 5 murders on Tuesday night, saying that the police service will aggressively and relentlessly pursue those persons bent on causing pain and distress to innocent citizens. So you haven't been doing that all along? You haven't been doing that all along? I wonder what difference is going to change now. You haven't been relentlessly and aggressively pursuing those bent on causing pain for citizens. She goes on to say the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is very concerned. Oh my word, you're concerned. People are living in fear. People are absolutely scared. Some people can't sleep at night. The TTPS is very concerned about the continuing loss of life through gun and gang violence and remains very resolute in taking the necessary actions to effectively reduce high incidence of crime and violence in our country. Homicide detectives are on the ground, working assiduously, conducting inquiries and expending all available resources to bring perpetrators to justice. Madam, it's not working. So as much as you're saying this is what you all are doing, we're not seeing it, or we're not seeing the results, so clearly you need to do something different or try something different. Anyway, you've given yourself until June. The citizens have already started judging you, and thus far I can't say that anybody has great confidence. Nothing has changed. In fact, as compared to last year, the situation is worse. So, one more month. One more month, give and take a couple weeks. And then I suppose we can give you a grade just based off of your comments about reducing serious crimes such as murder by the month of June. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll welcome our first guest for this morning. Stay tuned.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah, hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here.
Tickets available at Crosby St. James, Kenny Sport, Extra Foods, Mart's Liquor Palace, 14 Diego Martin Main Road, and WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook.
Welcome back to AM Prime here on WESN. Thank you for staying with me. As we get into our first conversation this morning, the issue that we are tackling is the education system, but not exactly what the curriculum may be or what it entails, rather what is happening in the classroom and what is being done to address it, and to hear the thoughts, the experience, and perhaps the opinions of what can be done or what should be done. We welcome this morning to the program Tutor President, Mr. Martin Lumpkin. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for having me. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, thank you for joining me, sir. Let's start off with the incidence of school violence. This is something that has been spoken about most recently. The Minister of National Security suggesting that a lot of the violence and behavior that is taking place is due to a number of factors, whether it be the exposure to certain genres of movies. We're also hearing that there are over 1,000 students that have been suspended, including one suspected to be a gang leader. What is taking place within the school system that now it seems as though we're raising criminals rather than actually educating students for a better life ahead?
The issue of students and violence and discipline is not a new one. It has been plagued throughout the education system for a while now. What is exacerbating the current situation, among other things, is the proliferation of videos being shared on social media. And that is due to the students having the camera phones and being able to take these videos and sharing it. And so it's being highlighted more now on the social media, mainstream media, and throughout, Trinidad and Tobago. But it is an issue that has been plaguing the system for quite a while. And now more than ever, because the school is a reflection, it's a microcosm of the society. We are seeing that what is taking place in the schools is a reflection of what is taking place in the community and the country at large. And so now more than ever, there needs to be all hands on deck. It cannot be business as usual when it comes to student violence and indiscipline. We have been meeting with the Ministry of Education, and they have reported to us that they have programs that they are going to roll out, which should deal with it. Tutor has been saying to the Ministry of Education that we cannot be reactive. We need to be proactive. So there may be schools that are flagged. There may be schools that are under the radar. that are being looked at in terms of school violence and indiscipline. However, there are schools that are borderline as well too, that programs need to be put in place, interventions, and we cannot wait until it starts to erupt before we, put things to ensure that all the persons on the plant are safe. And so it should start from the ECC level straight up to secondary. We can't wait until then at secondary schools to start these programs.
Well, Mr. Lumpkin, I mean, arguably it already has erupted. I mean, I would go as far as to say that it is out of control. For example, business as usual. Now, these videos actually bring some level of awareness as to just how far we've gone, how bad we are in terms of what's taking place within the schooling system. But beyond that, a simple little thing such as a cell phone with a camera, as far as I'm aware, it's not permitted on school compounds. Do we need more searches of students to be done, though we're not trying to treat them like criminals? At the same time, a number of students have been caught with knives in school, some with marijuana. And again, a basic thing like a phone with a camera is not allowed. So it's out of control. It seems as though it's business as usual, and not enough checks are being conducted as students enter a compound on a daily basis.
So that's just one of the situations. Now, camera phones are allowed because of the nature and the advanced technology in cell phones. You hardly get a cell phone without a camera now. And students are allowed to bring their phones on the compound due to many reasons. Many years ago, policies were put in place in terms of these handheld devices, use of it. Now, the schools are very much constrained when you have this, because the schools are not allowed to confiscate or even keep the cell phones during the course of the day because of legal implications that can happen, that can be brought to bear on the administration and the teachers. So, for example, if you take a child's cell phone and when you return it, they say that it is not working. They give you working and then it's not working. Then the teacher or the school is liable to fix those. Sorry. And so you have a number of other issues. So there are policies, and the Ministry of Education did say to us that they have reissued the policy on handheld devices, because that in particular was brought up at our last meeting with the Ministry of Education. And so the school is constrained in order to deal with it, and they have to adapt the policy to suit their schools. In terms of searches, yes, we have, and this is one of the areas that was lacking quite recently, the renewal of contracts for the school safety officers. That's just one of the support groups that the school depends on. The renewal of the contracts did not take place in a timely manner. We understand that they will be, they have been working on it, and schools have been getting. And in terms of the security officers, they're doing checks as much as possible. I can recall years ago that the schools were doing, and I wouldn't call the name of the school, but they were doing the checks. But when the children entered, there was a wall on the northern side of the school, and the students went to the back, and persons from outside the school were throwing over the illicit items, whether it be weapons or illicit drugs and so on. That's how they got it into the school. So you can do as much as you can in terms of the entry. There needs to be enough security personnel who will be patrolling on a timely basis as well too. And that's one of the drawbacks. In some of the schools, the full complement of security officers are not there on a daily basis. We find that if a security officer does not report in a primary school and a secondary school has, say, for example, 5 security officers, they will take one of that person in order to substitute the person who is missing from the other school. So in many schools on a daily basis, they don't have the full complement officers, and that is what is taking place in some of the schools. Now, you're speaking about it's growing, and so it's the majority of incidents takes place in certain schools and throughout Trinidad, not so much in Tobago. And the issue of the other schools, some schools keep it quiet. Some of the so-called prestige schools keep it quiet. Some of the other schools keep it, under the radar because it's not as bad as other schools. We have been saying to the Ministry of Education, we can call Tranquility Government Secondary School, almost on a termly basis, sometimes monthly. They have issues of violence and indiscipline. And we have been saying to the ministry, deep intervention needs to take place. The Student Support Services Division of the Ministry of Education is supposed to lend support to the schools in terms of the guidance officers, the social workers, even special education teachers. Because you can appreciate another aspect of it is that when students are not achieving, when they don't have that self-confidence, they will find themselves in other avenues where it is projected that they are, seen as important.
Mr. Lumpkin, let me just interject for a moment because it's a lot that you are bringing to light, and not all of it is new to me, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous what I'm hearing, like with respect to the renewal of contracts and how that is affecting the support on a school compound on a daily basis, because now we're stretching the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to, at times, even police compounds, within the education system. But beyond that, let me start off with the very first point that you made. To me, it sounds as though everything that you have suggested, just on what you said, ties back into the very first point. It seems as though we are enabling students. It seems as though we are just helping them or allowing them to get away with absolute nonsense. Because whilst I understand that, okay, if you confiscate a student's cell phone and when you return it and it's not working, then there will be arguments about that. At the same time, who are we empowering? Are we empowering teachers to discipline students? Do teachers have that power to discipline students and correct students? It sounds more so as though we're empowering students to do whatever they want to do and as they please.
And yes, it is a very tight situation, ticklish tenure situation as well too. And we could go back in terms of the history of our education system. And many years ago, corporal punishment was allowed in schools. And then we removed corporal punishment unguardedly, so because of the rights of the child and in terms of abuse and so forth, and within the law. But we never substituted the corporal punishment, the removal of the corporal punishment, with other forms of disciplining the child. And so what had happened, and I was in the primary school system when it happened, some students were saying that you can't touch me because I have rights and I will call the police for you and that kind of thing. So we went from a culture of utilizing corporal punishment, and we know the arguments for and against it, mainly against it because it's basically abuse. And we have the Child Protection Act, which is instituted, and we have the Child Protection Unit of the TTPS, which will enact the legislation. And we are also signatories to the UN Rights of the Child. However, added to that, we got where parents will not support, well, some, let me don't generalize and say all, some parents were not supporting the schools as well too in terms of the discipline of their children. And this is now being, like a snowball. It's getting out of control. And that's one of these situations we have there in terms of the family and the home taking charge of their children. So you speak about enabling the child and so on, and having them have that power. In some situations, there isn't that distinction between who's the parent and who's the child, and so you are sending some of these children with that mindset to so if they have no respect for their parents, what do you expect when they come to school? And then
Mr. Lumpkin, arguably, there's some teachers as well who don't necessarily care. And again, I will not generalize all. There are teachers who go the extra mile. There are teachers who do beyond what they need to do, what is actually required of them. But there are also some teachers who just do not care. Some teachers who are damning the system as well, whether it be not coming to class and teaching, coming to class and old talking, or there's some teachers who actually just do not actually conduct the role and position as a teacher. So even though we understand there is a breakdown within the family home and within the family setting, there is a breakdown in the classroom as well, because you cannot, in some instances, you cannot distinguish between who's the teacher and who's the student.
So true. And I will not and tutor will not defend any teacher who is not carrying out their duties professionally and taking their role as a teacher seriously. However, I want to say that this is the minority, and we, as you said, not generalizing, but we don't want the teaching service to be judged by these bad eggs in the basket. As with most professionals and professions, you have the one or two errant persons. And we are saying that there are systems in place to deal with those who are not performing or who are errant. Once the procedure is carried out properly, once there is the justice in the whole thing, tutor will defend when there is need to defend, and then there are those who are sometimes prosecuted and persecuted wrongfully. We will defend them as well too. But we as tutor, as a professional body, encourages all our teachers to be professional, and when they are on duty, to carry out their duty as sacred as possible, because the nature of our profession is that we impact on the lives of the young ones, which will in turn in the future impact the nation. And we have always been making that point, that teachers are the ones that drive national development as best as possible. Actually, the profession that impacts on national development the most, because we are the ones that impact on human resource, and not only in terms of careers, but in terms of making positive contributions to the schools. So coming back to your point, yes, we recognize that there are persons who do not take the profession seriously, and we know that there are some who would not contribute towards the positive growth of the profession. However, we recognize that they are the minority, and the majority of our teachers go beyond the call of duty, give more than they're supposed to.
Mr. Lumpkin, are teachers, when they go to school on a daily basis and enter that compound, is there a sense of fear amongst teachers, entering their daily duties, given the level of violence that we're now seeing expressed by students and even carried out by students? And there are times where even parents have intervened, and that was also raised within the public domain. Do teachers themselves now, are they fearful of going to work?
Generally, most teachers are comfortable at their places of work. There are in some areas where the teachers on a daily basis, psychologically, it's affecting them when they have to go to school. On the way to school, they're not sure of their safety. Upon entering the compound, yes, we would have security guards and other things in place. However, they're not sure what could happen during the course of the day. We've had instances in Rose Hill where during the day they would hear gunshots. It was getting closer, and I'm sure you would have seen the video where the teacher in the classroom had to get the children down and stay down and were trying to keep them calm. Thank God we have not had instances of those quite recently. I haven't gotten any report I should say. However, there are teachers who are very scared of going to school because of the situation. And the administration, I know, and the principals, supervisors are trying their utmost best. However, it is a situation where we really need to pay more attention to. And it requires all arms of the government, NGOs, faith-based institutions, the schools themselves, and the community as well.
Mr. Lumpkin, what are some of the proposals put forward by the Ministry of Education? I know you said earlier that tutor is constantly in discussion with the Ministry of Education. I mean, beyond just getting the Trent Tobago Police Service involved, what are some of the measures that have been discussed, if you can reveal any this morning?
As I said earlier, the ministry did inform us that they have several programs that they are going to roll out. We are waiting patiently for those programs. The CEO did indicate that they have these programs in place. There is the Student Support Services Division, and again, I am saying they are understaffed, under-resourced. If they are given the tools and the resources, they can play an important role in the schools, because they go directly into the schools and they give interventions, as well as they have programs as well too. So some of the schools guidance officers, and that's another thing. We look at the job description of the guidance officers and the qualifications, and they lend a certain amount of support, and they are actually supposed to be career guidance officers. We need to have more psychosocial workers qualified in order to give interventions and to give those type of clinical diagnoses, as well as the clinical interventions that are necessary. Teachers are not qualified for the most part to do these interventions and to diagnose these interventions. So the Student Support Services Division needs to be given more resources, because you have these officers who are assigned to a cluster of schools, sometimes 4 to 6 schools, and you have incidents in each school that would warrant that officer to be there on a daily basis. So you need to have these officers assigned to all schools, not just have them assigned to 4 schools. So one day they visit today, next school they visit tomorrow, and so on. They need to be there on a daily basis. The same for our special education teachers. And the whole education system needs to be reviewed, because we are based on a colonial system. And it seems that we have a system that is going to have some persons fail. And what about those students who are not progressing as they should in terms of the normal curriculum? And is the curriculum really satisfying the needs of these persons? We have also been speaking about the technical and vocational education training, TVET. The ministry has indicated that they have a program to revamp TVET. We are quietly and optimistically looking forward to those programs, because not all of our children will do well in mainstream curriculum. Not all will be doctors, lawyers, and so forth. But there are those who are skilled and can lend support to the nation in terms of their skills. And we need to also focus on this examination, this summative examination, that all our students are differently, yes, they are differently abled in terms of their achievements, but they are all preparing for the same standardized test. And so you will, which is a placement exam, which I have to say. It is a placement exam. You're placing children from primary to secondary. And the Constitution allows for the parents to choose their school, that choice of school. However, that is to me not enabling the education system to effectively address the needs of our children. When you have to write an examination to be placed in a secondary school, and we have been banding about universal secondary education, why should you have to write an examination in order to be placed in a school?
Well, Mr. Lumpkin, I'm going to ask you to just pause there. We have to take a quick break here on AM Prime. When we return, you'll conclude on that point, because we need to get into another issue. I mean, it seems as though the education system is plagued with more issues rather than finding ways to move forward in a positive light, because I've been informed that there are a number of schools, for whatever reason, mostly due to infrastructural deficiencies, that have not been able to open this week, or have had limited days or limited classes this week. So when we return, we can get into that. Stay tuned to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Martin Lumpkin, the president of Tutors, with me this morning. When we return, we'll continue the conversation.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
The artists you'll meet. The sounds will astonish you. Superb voices, new artists, simply refreshing. Celebrate amazing. May 27th, North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Festival grounds Blanchishes. Born here, played here.
Tickets available at Crosby St. James, Kenny Sport, Extra Foods, Mart's Liquor Palace, 14 Diego Martin Main Road, and WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook.
Thank you very much for staying with us here on AM Prime. The president of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, Mr. Martin Lumpkin, he's with us this morning via Zoom. He's taking time out of his schedule for this extended conversation, of which we're most grateful for. Mr. Lumpkin, thank you for staying with us.
You're welcome. And when it comes to the education, tutor, and by extension myself, whenever we have the opportunity to voice our, opinion on the education system, we will do that, even if it means coming out of vacation.
Yes, folks, Mr. Lumpkin is on vacation this morning, but he woke up bright and early to have this discussion. And again, very much grateful of that. But as we continue, we had a very brief discussion off air just now, and a very powerful statement came out of that, and I'm raising it now on air. It seems as though that the education, that the system that we currently have is designed to fail some students.
And that is so true. When you have a placement examination such as the SEA, and previous to that, the Common Entrance examination, so which I went through, you have these systems and these examinations, and that's what our teachers, our educators in primary school are focusing on that, having the child prepared for that examination. So you have a standardized test, and all students have to write this. However, all all children and students do not learn the same way, and they will, some students will bloom at certain times later on. We all know that psychologically and through the education psychology and so. However, we have these children around the same age having to write the same examination. And yes, we have some students who are doing excellent and doing well, but the examination and the system seems to be failing and having some of our students fail, because you have students, a number of students who do not get above 30%. And they are flagged now as, having to either repeat or having remedial work done. The remedial should have been done much earlier, not wait until the child reaches the age of 11, 12, 13, and even going into secondary school. So this system, which is a colonial-based system, which we are still adapting and utilizing in the school, is having some of our students failing, and it is destined for some of the children to fail.
Well, that's just one of the factors that are failing students. So there are many other factors, but that is a huge factor.
Yeah, it is. It is. And when we are not focusing on what is the nature and purpose of education, is it just to certify students? Is it just to prepare them for an examination, a standardized examination? Or is the purpose and nature of education to enable the child and the student to make a positive contribution to society, to be able to adapt to what is taking place in society and make positive changes? And so it will improve the lifestyle of the entire country and the person. One of the points I made recently in terms of violence and indiscipline has to do with corruption, and people don't want to see it. But take, for example, we as educators, we are constantly saying to our students, stay in school, get your subjects, you will get a job, and you will be able to live in society. But then the students are saying that there are some persons in authority and there are some persons outside of a profession who are doing well because of corruption, because of crime. And they are saying this. So your teachers are saying one thing, but in practice and in reality, they are seeing something else. And this is grappling most of our educators in terms of those schools who have violence and discipline, because they are saying that in one hand, the teachers are telling you something, but on the other hand, in reality, they are seeing something else. And corruption not only is pervasive in the society and at the top levels, but it is also within communities as well too. And we have to deal with that. That's one of the areas, to me, is that needs to be addressed.
Well, Mr. Lumpkin, another area that needs to be addressed, and I mentioned this before going to the commercial break, was the issue of the existing infrastructure within the school system. Now, I've gotten calls, I've received information that there are a number of schools that have had limited classes, they've had limited days. Some have had no school at all this week. In one instance, one individual actually called and said that they received a call from the school after dropping off their grandchild to come back and pick him up because they couldn't have classes for the day. Could you give us an update as to remedial works from the Ministry of Education, what Shooter is aware of? Because it seems as though there's a deafening silence when it comes to maintaining and even upgrading the existing infrastructures, which is, in instances, very much harmful and very much hazardous for students and teachers to be in.
Yes, and Tutor is very adamant and very strong when it comes to the health and safety of our members, of our educators, and by extension, the students. Because health and safety does not, it will not discriminate. It will not say, well, all right, I will affect you and I would not affect you. It affects everyone. And when it comes to the threat of life and limb, we are very, very strong on having safety ensured, that there are safety committees and that the necessary infrastructural works are done. So we, at our last Ministry of Education meeting, the Permanent Secretary did say that they have utilized a great deal of their budgetary allocations for infrastructure work and repairs when it came to having schools ready for SEA, and they are focusing on the CSEC and CAPE. And we understand the financial limitations that the ministry has. We understand the constraints that they're put under when they don't have the budgetary allocations and the necessary monetary resources. However, we have been saying to the Ministry of Education that that is no comfort to our members, to our educators. And
$5 billion is spent a year by the Ministry of Education. I can't understand how they're telling you they don't have the money or the resources.
Because based on their budget, and remember, they don't get the full releases. They have to constantly liaise with the Ministry of Finance in order to get the releases on a timely basis. And so their allocations are based on the releases, as I said, from the Ministry of Finance. But what we are having clearly is schools that are aging and would require attention, different levels for different schools. One of the things that the Ministry of Education has been, to me, lacking is in terms of preventative measures, so that you wait until something happens in order to institute infrastructural upgrades. What about those schools that are slowly aging? Are you putting things in place in order to deal with that? So that we have a number of schools over 40, 50 years. We have those that were built in the 70s, the former junior secondary and senior secondary schools. I have visited a number of them, and you see the levels of disrepair. And these are the conditions that our teachers our educators have to work under. And we keep reminding the ministry, the working conditions of our teachers are the learning conditions of our students. And so when you have conditions that are less than adequate, you cannot get the maximum output. And so, yes, finances is an issue, but I've been also saying, if the government needs to find money for certain aspects, they will find money for it. This, to me, is very important, and they need to find the money in order to institute infrastructural upgrades.
What about the water schedule, these water restrictions? I mentioned it at the beginning of the program this morning that some areas across Trinidad and Tobago will be receiving a water supply once every 10 days. How is that going to affect the school systems as well? Because even though they have water tanks, surely that cannot suffice.
And so what the Ministry of Education attempted to do is have WASA ensure that schools are given priority if the schools need to get a truck-borne water supply. And so principals were given numbers to contact the area managers who are responsible for truck-borne water. And so on the most part, I would say that the majority of schools are serviced properly. We will get situations where schools would not get the water on time. And there are procedures in terms of the school following if there is no water, in terms of dismissals and so. Sorry. And let me also say, you spoke about there are some schools who did not open, and then there are schools where the parents were called after they dropped off the children and so. In the past, and unfortunately in the past, there were some ministry officials who felt that on the first day of school, all schools must open, even if there are infrastructural issues. So you open the school and then you deal with dismissal after that. Unfortunately, we do not ascribe to that. And the thing is that I'm saying unfortunately because it is a public relations stunt to show the nation that all schools were ready. But that's not the case in some schools. There's the Barrapo Astra, which has, I think, a sewer issues and has not opened. But the other thing with that, and let me point out here, is that the Ministry of Education has attempted to have students online, teachers teach online when school has not been reopened. We are in discussions with the Ministry of Education. We are not against the use of technology. We are not against the use of their times where it may be necessary to have the virtual and online classes. However, we are saying, and we have said to the ministry, we are saying to the public, and we are saying to parents that this cannot be an ad hoc kind of arrangement. It cannot be like a light switch. You turn it on when you need to, and you take it off when you need to. There must be proper planning. There must be proper policies in place because it can infringe on the rights of the teachers. And as the recognized majority union, you need to speak with us. Now, there are conversations between the chief personnel officer, the CPO, who is the employer, and the Ministry of Education. However, we have not come to a consensus and an agreement at this point in time. So at this point in time, we are not encouraging it unless you have proper dialogue and discussion. So tutor may seem to be a hindrance when it comes to it. It is not that we don't recognize the use of technology, and in some instances, however, let us have the proper dialogue. Let us come up with a proper policy which will spell out all the terms and conditions, all the the necessary nature of it, and then we can go forward in it. But it cannot be an ad hoc situation.
Mr. Lumpkin, thank you very much for your time this morning. So that's all the time that we have, but the interview went beyond what we had planned, which, if I may say so, is a very good thing. So thank you very much for your time, sir, and all the very best. And I look forward to hearing some updates very soon. Need I say some very positive updates, because if such conversations that we are having does not equate to any meaningful change, then perhaps we ourselves are wasting our times. And let's hope that's not the case. So keep well, sir, and all the very best.
Thank you very much. And on a final note, we're very good at talk shops. When it comes to instituted, that's where the problem is. But it is my pleasure anytime to be on your program. And let me wish you and the entire company all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best. Take care. The president of Tutor, Mr. Martin Lumpkin, on AM Prime this morning. Thank you very much once more for your time. We break for WSN's News on the Hour. And when we return, we'll get into some more discussions this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. New circuit gives TNTech capacity to receive full power from TGU. Businessman gunned down in Claxton Bay. Taxi drivers under pressure. Regionally, drought threat in Barbados, and internationally, stranded Indonesian fishermen rescued after 6 days without food. Now for the details. TNTech has added further stability and reliability to the national electricity grid with the completion of a second circuit to allow the transfer of bulk power from the Trinidad Generation Unlimited TGU power plant. The project was commissioned on Tuesday at TNTech's Union substation in La Brea. The $72 million project to construct a second 220 kilovolts double circuit tower line from Union Estate substation to Gandhi Village substation was completed by TNTech to provide it with the capacity to receive the full 720 megawatts of power produced by the TGU plant. A Claxton Bay businessman is dead following a shooting at his business place on Wednesday morning. 33-year-old Daniel Eversley, the owner of a car wash and poultry depot, was gunned down around 8 a.m. when he went to open his business along Cedar Hill Road. The man was screaming for help while he lay covered in blood. He was rushed to the Couva Health facility where he succumbed to his injuries. President of the Taxi Drivers Association, Adrian Acosta, says taxi drivers are under extreme pressure. This comes following a mandate that 7-seater taxis must now carry only 6 passengers.
A lot of our drivers are now complaining concerning the treatment that they are receiving when they go to the license office throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Right? When they take their vehicles to be inspected, those who are at 7-seat, who 7 seats are available for them in their vehicles, are now being downsized to 6 seats. We have spoken about this issue a number of times with those in authority, the Minister of Works and Transport, PS. We have even protested about it. Right? We are saying today that we believe that taxi drivers are under pressure at this point in time.
In regional developments now, Barbadians are being told to expect low yields of fruits and vegetables as the island grapples with drought-like conditions. In fact, it is also predicted that the dry conditions will drive milk production down. According to a statement published over the weekend, Director of the Meteorological Office, Sabu Best, said that the rainforest for the coming weeks will be low, with the only relief coming at the start of the Atlantic hurricane season in June. In international news now, 11 Indonesian fishermen have been rescued after surviving for 6 days without food or water on a tiny island off Australia's coast. The Australian Maritime Safety Authority said they were airlifted to safety on Monday from Bedwell Island, but 9 others are feared dead. The survivors said their boats were hit by powerful tropical cyclone Ilsa last week, sinking 1 boat. 9 of the 10 crew members on that vessel are still missing. Well, that was your News to the Hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah, hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here.
Tickets available at Crosby St. James, Kenny Sport, Extra Foods, Mart's Liquor Palace, 14 Diego Martin Main Road, and WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook.
Welcome back to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capsule as we continue with this morning's edition of the program. The issue that we are now tackling is lawyers taking advantage of the criminal justice system. Now, these comments came forth following the CARICOM Symposium on Violence as a Public Health Crisis, and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ras Gonzalez, he took issue with this, raising it at the symposium. And we have joining us now the President of the Criminal Bar Association to give us his thoughts and share with us how he interprets these comments from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Senior Counsel Israel Khan is with us via telephone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you and your support staff and all your listeners.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. You already stated publicly that you support the statements that there are indeed attorneys who take advantage of the system. To what extent do you agree with it, or on what grounds are you making the argument that there are indeed lawyers who take advantage of the system?
Well, what has happened? First of all, the system is overburdened with cases. Like magistrate courts list, they have about 150 cases a day. So there are more cases than they could do. So they readily give adjournments to lawyers who are seeking adjournments in order to delay the determination of the matter. At the sizes, they are also crowded. But in order to solve this, the judges and the magistrate must take a firm hand and control the courts and ensure that this small group of lawyers, and they are criminal lawyers, like myself, I am a criminal lawyer, manipulating the system. So I agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would argue that there also appears to be from some of these lawyers a get-rich-quick scheme. You know, even legal fees are prohibitive. Is that part of the problem here in Trinidad and Tobago, where lawyers are actually taking advantage of their clients financially?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, the people who are involved in having matters in court, like they have been charged, they are people coming from the dispossessed society, by and large. They are not people who could afford fees, exorbitant fees. So they are really poor clients. So I don't think that is a fair criticism that lawyers are exploiting the clients, because fees that a lawyer will normally charge if a client could pay is about 3 or 4 times the clients are paying.
Mm-hmm. Because I was told of one example where one individual was taken to court, was actually being sued. Not going to call names or the case, of course, but the judgment was actually made to the defendant, in favor of the defendant. They were awarded, I think, $400,000. Sorry, they were awarded $134,000, but legal fees were $400,000. So even the judgment that was awarded, which they're saying that they can't get paid to as yet up until this point, they still have to pay $400,000 to the attorney. So there seems to be a great imbalance between what is being awarded and what is being paid to the lawyer.
In that particular matter, that would have been a civil matter.
Mm-hmm.
That stemming from a criminal matter may be wrongful prosecution, malicious prosecution, false imprisonment, etc. The client himself would not have to pay that $400,000. The state will have to pay that cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, the client has, the client has stated otherwise. But anyway, moving on, should there be a recommended fee structure to try and help?
If the client has to pay that $400,000, he wouldn't get anything, because the lawyer will keep the 100 and something thousand and still have fees for him. That is ridiculous. That is preposterous. The state have to pay that.
Well, that is an issue that we can speak about off air. Should there be a recommended fee structure in place? Or is there a recommended fee structure that's in place?
Well, in relation, it has been suggested and accepted. The Law Association has suggested, and the legal profession has accepted, that a senior counsel, if he is tabulating his fees, a senior counsel will charge between $3,000 and $4,000 an hour. A senior attorney who is not carrying a rank or cert could charge $2,000. That is in relation to fees, but you cannot really put a price on the ability of a lawyer when he is in court, cross-examining, etc., etc. There is no stipulated fees then. It's what the market can bear.
All right, moving on to from the
There is no stipulated fees for doctors also, incidentally.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Moving on, though, to the issue with respect to taking advantage of the system, it has been touted that lawyers actually procrastinate and try as very much to extend the case as possible. And I know there's also an issue, as you mentioned earlier, with respect to a backlog of cases. So cases sometimes have to be adjourned for whatever reason. But there have been instances where perhaps key witnesses have passed away, where files have been lost. And I'm not actually alluding to any recent case that has been publicly stated on behalf of the state. I'm speaking generally in instances like this happening. How do we try to reduce incidents like this from taking place again?
Well, a very small group of lawyers, especially in the country areas and so on, and in Port of Spain too. What has happened, the only way we could solve that problem is the magistrate and judges have to take a firm hand and say the matter is proceeding. The lawyers are not in charge of the courts. It's the magistrate and the judges.
But it seems as though, sir, that these lawyers have already been identified. If by your description, a small group of lawyers, these troubled lawyers have already been identified. Is that so?
Yes, we all know the lawyers in the profession. We know the lawyers in Cuba. We know the lawyers in Shogunas. We know the lawyers in Rio Claro. We know the lawyers in Sandy Grande. We know the lawyers in Port of Spain, who really not really desirous of bringing a matter to conclusion, but they will just postpone the case and postpone the case. But there are thousands of cases in the system.
I want to move on to this thousands of cases within this system. This issue, as you've mentioned, it's up to judges, it's up to magistrates. But this backlog within this system, has there been any suggestions at all, whether it be from the Chief Justice or by extension the judiciary, to try and clear this backlog?
There has been suggestion, and this, wherever we practice the system of jurisprudence we are practicing in the entire Commonwealth, they have backlog of cases. Because there's a presumption of innocence. The onus is upon the prosecution to prove its case. You must have the person being represented by attorney in serious matter. But they do not have the political will in order to really suggest that is the government of the day, government come and government go, to suggest a system or implement a system where they can expedite the matters. First thing that must be done, they must categorize murder into first, second, and third degree murders, and have bail for second and third degree, and emphasize proceeding on first degree. They should have proper plea bargaining. The plea bargaining system should be made simpler, where the accused person could plead guilty, and if they get a term of imprisonment, that they know that if they behave themselves and over the prison rules and they enter programs in prison and rehabilitate themselves, we have a parole board. We don't have a parole board which will let them out.
Well,
also,
go ahead, sir.
Also, you must staff the DPP department with the necessary professional staff it needs in order to prosecute matters. So there's a lot of things to be done, but I seem to do not have the political will. This thing didn't happen overnight. It crept up on us over, and we have been talking over the last 15 years, 20 years, more.
Well, I'm glad you also raised the issue about bail for murder, because that's another comment that the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines he suggested at the symposium. He's questioning how serious judges when they grant a bail for someone who is charged with murder. And publicly, I've heard citizens suggest that should not be the case, where there have been instances of people who have been charged for crimes of lesser severity, who have been granted bail and then returned to the streets only to commit murder.
Well, look, the statistic would not support the Prime Minister in relation to that. It's only recently the Privy Council said that a person, a murder charge, is entitled to go to court and make an application for bail. That is his constitutional right from time immemorial. The judges and they have not been granting bail to murder accused, you know, since this happened, willy-nilly. There's a few have been granted bail. Nevertheless, there are people who are locked up for 10 to 15 years, charged for murder, and they cannot get a trial date. Who is to be blamed for that? It's the person who is in charge of running the judiciary and the person who is in charge of running the government. What has happened is that why is the DPV staff, professional staff prosecutor, they need 84 to 85 lawyers, and the government has not supplied a lawyer to prosecute. When a case starts in our system, a murder, it takes about sometimes 3 weeks, 3 months. The Vindra Naipur case, in which I was the lead prosecutor, took 2 years to be completed because there were 74 witnesses, 12 accused, 30 lawyers representing the accused, which the state had to pay for. So the systems are bogged down because you have to prove the accused committed the offense. But it's morally wrong and legally wrong to have a man locked up, presumed to be innocent, for 10 to 15 years. It's not the lawyers to be blamed for that. It's not the DPP to be blamed for that. It's not the Chief Justice to be blamed for that. It's who our Constitution says that the Cabinet shall have general conduct of the government and accountable to Parliament. And not this particular government, it's every government not putting resources into the judiciary to expedite murders. You know why? Because prisoners are not allowed to vote.
Well, that's an interesting take. So then, are the politicians focusing on the wrong directions then? Well, clearly they are, based on what you're suggesting.
Looking for scapegoats they're looking for. Look at this escalation of crime. We are speaking about crime. Look at the newspaper today. 5 murders, and they had a symposium just 2 days ago. 5 murders committed between yesterday and last night.
So these politicians who are responsible for enacting legislation and trying to clean up the system, could we make an argument that they're actually enabling the system?
They're not. Of course, they're looking for making subterfuge, trying to scapegoat it. They're trying to push it on the judiciary. Politicians are not only responsible for enacting legislation. Look at this nonsense that our Minister of National Security is saying. He is not legally responsible for having a crime plan. He is totally wrong about that. The Constitution demands that every minister have a plan. If you're the Minister of Health, you have a plan for keeping the country healthy in relation to hospital and doctors and so on. If you're the Minister of Transport, Minister of Health, if you're the Minister of National Security, which you receive billions of dollars, you are saying that it's not your responsibility to have a crime plan. He should be fired immediately upon making that statement. Because for 7 years he had been Minister of National Security, so he had telling the country for 7 years he never offered a crime plan to the country, nor the Cabinet. And he's trying to say that it is the Commissioner of Police who is responsible for this crime plan. Under the Constitution and under the Police Service Act, the Police Commissioner cannot design a crime plan. That is a political enterprise. She cannot get involved with a political enterprise. It's the Minister of National Security and the Cabinet.
What do you think of? I understand your feelings, your thoughts as following the expressions by the Minister of National Security. But what are your thoughts on this entire CARICOM symposium that took place just a couple days ago?
I think they're moving in the right direction. But I'm very disappointed they didn't really discuss money laundering, importation of cocaine, importation of arms and ammunition. Because the United States authorities know exactly who is bringing in these guns and cocaine and who are money laundering in Trinidad. That is what is fueling the crime in Trinidad. Because if you're importing cocaine in the country, arms come along with it, and ammunition. So there is a step in the right direction. They're talking there's an escalation of crime. So let us see what they're going to do about it.
But Mr. Khan, Senior Counsel Khan, listen, a step in the right direction by having this symposium, a step in the wrong direction by a Minister of National Security not having a crime plan or saying that his responsibility is not a crime plan. So I don't know, it seems as though we're stuck.
But he has been saying he's not responsible for a crime plan even before they had this symposium, or they're going to discuss this symposium. The first thing is, we have no crime plan in the country for the last 7 years since this minister, because he has admitted that he's not responsible for that. He's totally wrong about that. Just last night, Martin Daly, a very senior counsel, indicated that he's totally wrong on a program on CN3. Legally, he is wrong, totally wrong. And how come he remains a member of the cabinet still and he has no crime plan? How come? Because he could sell raffle tickets to raise about $40 million here, the Prime Minister, to build a PNM headquarters? Or because he might be a sycophant of the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is supposed to fire him immediately because he has no crime plan, but the Prime Minister would have known he has no crime plan because none was submitted to the cabinet. So besides he not having a crime plan, what about the other? What about the cabinet? What about the Prime Minister? Is there a crime plan?
Well, Mr. Khan, as we conclude this conversation, you said the symposium was a step in the right direction. I hear you with respect to that. Has there been any steps in the right direction from the Office of the Attorney General, by extension the Judiciary, the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Criminal Bar Association to try and fix what we can safely say, arguably say, is a broken system, a broken criminal justice system? Has there been any concrete efforts to try and make the system more efficient and more effective? Because all this talk and all this conversation is not leading to anything.
Yes, you see, in the final analysis, it comes down to resources. It comes down to money, the final resources. They have to allocate a budget to the Director of Public Prosecution Department. If they're serious about crime and prosecuting crime, they have to revamp the police service. And they have to have a certain section. They have to have a certain section of police officers who are on the ground, properly trained, not shooting at people wantedly. But bandits must understand that if they are committing crimes, they are confronted with the police. The possibility exists if they shoot to the police, they will all be dead. These police must be a specialist squad who will take them out if they shoot at police. With home invasion, we now have home invasion. They should pass a legislation saying this is a specific crime, that if you have a home invasion, whether you make it a capital offense or 25 years penalty and expedite this matter, they should have a special court dealing with gun courts, like in Jamaica. They must have the political will to do what is right.
But Mr. Khan, could you just emphasize once more on that first part that you suggested with respect to a special squad to take out individuals who shoot at the police?
You see, the bandits, the police now are really afraid to shoot at bandits, because if they kill in an exercise and somebody is shot in the back or shot somewhere, they are ordering inquest. Some of the police have been charged, etc. There are 300 inquests pending in this country. That is 300 citizens have been killed by police existing in this country over the last 15 years. And the Chief Justice has not set up the coroners to investigate these matters to see whether the police wantonly kill these people or they were justified. So that's the first thing that could be done. But they have to allocate a budget for him to have about 10 coroners saying these matters, right? The first thing. The second thing is to set up a separate court, a gun court. If you're charged with guns and ammunition, they presume to be innocent, but they expedite the matter. Also, like we have our problem of home invasion now, pass legislation to make it a very serious offense. Home invasion is not an ordinary offense, you know. This is an attack on the sovereignty of the state, who was constitutionally must protect the citizens of this country.
Mr. Khan,
you know who is being attacked? The middle class people, the people who have jewelry, the people who have motor cars, the people who have cash. These are the people. Look at the areas where the bandits are entering. Falsing, upper middle class area. They're not having a home invasion in Lavantil. They're not having a home invasion in Caroni among the dispossessed people. So the government must get serious.
Mr. Khan,
protect the citizens, all the citizens.
My final question, if it is we are not able to currently resource the existing structures that we have in place, what makes you think that opening a gun court is going to help the system if it is that we probably can't even resource the courts that we already have?
No, you see, in a court, they hear in all sort of matters, all different sort of, including the gun possession of arms and ammunition. In Jamaica, they had a problem and they set up a gun court and they said they were constitutional. What will happen? They'll have trained judges here in these matters. And they don't have to be postponing. There's only arms and ammunition in that court. So they don't have the other matters crowding it up. And they could expedite it. They could have 3 gun courts set up.
Well, Mr. Khan,
they have a special court set up for home invasions.
Mr. Khan, I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning. There's a lot more that we could have gotten into and expanded upon, but unfortunately time does not permit. So we'll have to conclude it there for now. But thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Keep well.
Bye-bye.
President of the Criminal Bar Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Senior Counsel Israel Khan. Now, he admits that there are lawyers who are taking advantage of the system. He's even actually pointed out the areas across Trinidad and Tobago, and I've identified these areas where these lawyers are actually practicing. Furthermore, he went on to speak about the Minister of National Security and how Mr. Israel Khan believes that the Minister of National Security should not be there. He was absolutely wrong in suggesting that it is not his job to produce a crime plan. He also believes that the crime symposium was a step in the right direction. But as always, it's a matter of implementation of the ideas that were discussed at such symposium. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this edition of AM Prime. Thank you very much for starting your day with me. I've enjoyed your company, and I hope that we were all a little bit more made aware as to what's happening here in Trinidad and Tobago. We will very much notice what's taking place, whether it be via social media or the newspaper outlets or any news outlet. But there's a deeper understanding as to what is taking place within the systems itself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Do have a good day, and we'll see you again early tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.